there's numerous reports of this where like if someone's in like the autopilot or whatever, if the autopilot detects that it's going to get into a crash, like a second or two beforehand, it shuts itself off and puts it back on manual control, so that way they don't have to record the accident as being caused by autopilot, because technically the person was driving at the time of the accident. Never mind what happened 2 seconds beforehand.
Watch and/or listen while we tackle tough and sometimes taboo topics filmed live over drinks. This platform allows us to articulate our thoughts and challenge our beliefs. This is SipTalk. Grab a drink and enjoy. All right, we are live. Welcome to SipTalk, episode 278. My name is Justin DiGiulio, joined by James, the Boswell, philosopher, philanderer, philanthropist, philatelist, lobotomist, flamingo fan. How's things hanging down there with the flamingos in the south?
We don't have any flamingos in South Carolina. They're
they don't migrate that far north.
No, no. We've got lots of geese. Which
you have geese? Well, they're coming down from here.
Yeah. Well, they just have set up permanent residence on the golf course that's right next door.
Fair enough. Well,
I tell you about the time that I ran over a goose on my motorcycle.
Oh no! That sounds terrible, and it sounds scary simultaneously.
I was worried that I thought I was going to lose it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was only doing like 20 miles an hour. I was turning off the main road onto like the suburban street that I live on, doing like 20 miles an hour. There's a goose that's standing in the middle of the road. There's a Jeep coming the other way, also doing about 20. And like I just keep on going, and the goose looks at me, looks at the Jeep, and all the goose needs to do is stand still. So I keep going, and the goose jumps right down in front of my bike. I feel it go under the front wheel. It gets squirrely. And then, I see a puff of feathers up in the back, and I was like, dude, geese are hefty. That easily could throw my front wheel enough to tip me over, which at 20 miles an hour, I'm not going to die, but I'm not going to have a good day.
No, yeah, it would be a bad crash. Speaking of driving, I want to ask you about drinking. What are you drinking this evening? I
got a PBR in hand. Will not be driving afterwards.
Yeah, but probably a smart idea.
I told the girl I was dating at the time that I later on got in my car to run some errands, and I was like, yeah, and I returned to the scene of the crime and saw a whole bunch of feathers, and I was like, the crime, by the way, was jaywalking.
I mean, true. You didn't do anything wrong, and he jumped in front of your wheels.
Yeah, it's not like I aimed for him. I did want to hit the goose.
But
I also don't feel bad because geese are assholes.
I've got a High West Rye, courtesy of Raj. Thank you, Raj. I have that and a couple of beers here. We got a lot to talk about today. We're talking about AI. We're talking about universal basic income. And what you were saying right before we came on was we talked about this. You said 4 years ago. My guess, I would aim maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half longest.
No, we talked about UBI a long time ago. I think
we did a whole episode on UBI.
Yeah.
But we've talked about AI and we brought up UBI a couple of times since. But this stuff is moving really, really fast. So this is our, revision, I guess, on that.
Before we get to that, though,
today, hold on. Before, I know what you're going to say, but and we didn't even write this down. It's September 11th. So we're broadcasting on September 11th. Just take a moment to acknowledge the day because it's kind of a big day in American history. And
it was a really weird day to live through.
I think about that a lot. And I didn't share that with anybody. The people put posts about what they were doing on September 11th. But it's really about the people that were injured and died, and people that got cancer from the dust and all the shitty fallout. And the wars and et cetera, et cetera. But yes, it was a weird day to live through. I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No, but the other thing that's weird is 24 years ago. There's a lot of people that are alive right now that weren't even born yet.
Yes, adult humans with opinions and just real people, which is wild that it's such a big event in our lives, But I don't know, when was Pearl Harbor?
1941.
Yeah, so most of our parents weren't alive in them, but our grandparents were, and it was a big deal for them because obviously started World War II for the U.S.
And Pearl Harbor is probably the easiest and best comparison to 9/11.
I didn't think of it at the time because it was so fucking distant. Do
Well,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, uh,
But just in terms of impact on the nation.
yeah, but and I mean, yeah, it brought us into the Second World War, and wars are changing over time. So it's weird. Us in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all over the Middle East, and wherever else we've been since then. It doesn't feel like World War II, but wars are changing.
Maybe we could talk about that in a future episode about how war has changed, because like you can look just briefly, and I'm just going to
Very,
say one
very
thing about
scary.
it.
Yeah.
In Ukraine, like how much drones have impacted war now.
Hmm.
But I wanted to talk about Charlie Kirk getting killed yesterday.
Something else very political.
Yes, and I like there two things can be true at the same time. You can be a garbage human being and still not deserve to get shot.
Um, yeah, I would agree with you. I think for many, he represented the absolute worst of the American politics. For a very small portion of people, he represented the absolute best of American politics. Um, but and for a lot of people, he just was not great, regardless of what side you were on. But I think you and I share the same opinion that shooting somebody is not the answer.
There are exceedingly few cases in which I would endorse killing somebody else, and this is absolutely not one of them.
Terrorists.
Pretty much to save somebody else's life is one of the few
Yeah.
exceptions.
I think now had the guy somebody walked up and punched him in the face, I would have said, hey, all right, nice work. But
Yeah, I do think that it's the question that he was answering right before he got shot was about mass shootings, and him saying that, well, you're just gonna have to accept that as a reality.
oh, I did not know that. I actually didn't watch any of
Um,
the footage of what happened.
but let's just I really want to do a quick rundown of terrible things that he has said.
All right, you're gonna say some bad stuff. Then I got a couple of lighthearted jokes just to
Okay.
even things out, and then we
Yeah.
can get into
So he
AI.
said the Civil Rights Act was a huge mistake, that George Floyd was a scumbag, that he doesn't trust airline pilots if they're black, that white people are disproportionately attacked by black people. He compared Muhammad to Jeffrey Epstein. He frequently forwarded the Christian nationalist white supremacist Great Replacement theory. He said it a certain number of gun deaths were worth it to preserve the Second Amendment. Says you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. That birth control makes women angry and bitter and screws up female brains. That white privilege is a myth and a racist idea, and that Martin Luther King Jr. was awful, not a good person, and only famous because he said things that he didn't actually believe.
So I'm curious the context on some of these things, but kind of generally, I can't imagine a context where most of these things would be acceptable. Um, but again, I think neither you nor I condone gun violence or shooting,
No,
even if you vehemently disagree with somebody else.
right, and like just to reiterate, I am not celebrating his death.
Well, many,
I
many,
would
many
like it.
were.
I want his ideas to die because his ideas are terrible.
Yeah.
But shooting somebody because you disagree with the ideas that they have is just unacceptable.
All right. Little lightheartedness. I got some jokes here in
Oh, real quick, we should just say hi to 5 Mile and um, Schizoid.
all right. Hey guys. So, magazine my mom was getting, and now I continue to get because we get all her mail. It's got some good jokes. They're pretty bad, so get ready for it. A man approaches a priest with a huge grin. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I spent the week with 7 beautiful women. Do not fret, my son, says the priest. Just squeeze 7 lemons into a glass and drink. Will that cleanse you of my sin, Father? No, but it'll wipe that stupid smile off your face. Sorry.
It makes me think of a different version of that joke where, like, the guy says, like, I've been with 7 women in the last 7 days, and the priest says, well, you need to do such and such prayers, and the guy says, well, I'm not even Christian. The priest is like, what? Then why are you telling me? Like, what do you mean? I'm telling everybody.
My dad used to say to me, pints, gallons, and liters, which I think speaks volumes. Come on.
And not even using the same system.
It's a volume.
Yeah, but liters are metric, and pints and gallons are
All
imperial.
right. I got one more for you. I'm just trying to get you to smirk here. I've been taking salsa lessons for months, but I really don't feel like I'm progressing. It's just one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah,
I got you.
I might actually use that one. All right, I got one. I got one. This is what I came up with.
All right.
You hear that the FBI has been seizing shipments of drugs hidden in like rubber duckies in like containers coming from China.
I have not heard that.
Yeah, we might be on the verge of a new quack cocaine epidemic.
I don't get it.
Quack cocaine.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I didn't think that was fair enough. So you got my notes here.
Yep.
I've done my best to color code these, so we see if we stick to the color coding. I don't know if it's
am I blue or green?
Well, you got to check the key.
I don't read.
It's color coded. You just have to look at the color.
Oh.
As long as you can read your own name, I think we're good. Yeah, we just got a comment. Don't quit your day jobs. Yeah, we know.
I mean, none of those would go in my Type 5. I've got other material for that.
Yeah. Which I'm sure you will exercise on this podcast at some
point. At some point, I might actually.
I mean, you generally do. All right, what do you got there?
Well, I'm going to open this up with another joke I saw about AI, which like AI seems to be like a reverse Hitler, where like we were all afraid that it was just going to like end the world and kill everybody, and instead it just wants to make art.
Is that how Hitler started?
He got kicked out of, well, he got rejected from art school.
And that really is what got under his skin. No, I don't think AI is going in the direction of art. So it may actually be a real Hitler. It may actually be interested only in art right now. Everybody's using it to generate images. If you feel like a nice coffee table book, check out Beyond Human Conception, and on Amazon you can buy my book. That's Beyond Human Conception, the book on Amazon. Nice coffee table book with a mean looking alien on the front cover.
All right, so Jason Barisha asked if he thinks AI will take over real estate jobs, which I think we'll come back to after we just do a quick like overview on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, like at first, like the fear was that AI was going to take over like blue collar jobs, and like one of the ones that got the most attention would have been like trucking, where you can just have like self-driving trucks, and that would save
trucks and cabs.
Yeah, trucks and cabs, and you could argue that like robotics and automation and manufacturing already represent some level of AI taking over blue collar jobs.
But here's the thing: is that there is some intelligence, and it's obviously artificial. You have robotics that is running some algorithm.
Yeah, but those have to be kind of hand coded,
and they're also not learning algorithms. They don't really get much better. So somebody has to go in and manually code it. And that's the difference between AI as we have it now, is that it's this learning AI, so it can get better and better.
And so, yeah, where you're seeing the biggest growth in AI is going to be in jobs that predominantly deal with language. And so you can think of like people that work at call centers, where they've had robo trees for call centers forever, but they've always been terrible. But if you can have an AI that can communicate 80 to 90% as well as a human being, that's probably good enough for call centers.
Well,
and so like,
well, I mean, that would be better than call centers are now, probably. When I talk to a call center,
in some cases it might be.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that we're usually where you have to speak to somebody to actually make that sign off decision, like actually just give me the month for free because you didn't deliver the service, that's probably not something AI is able
Yeah.
to pull off right now.
Schizo, it says his brother has a computer science degree and despises AI. We'll get to that as well. But I see this. So my two professional jobs are I work with mortgages and I work with accounting. And the amount of stuff that is being pushed in accounting specifically that is AI driven, I have seen such a ramp up in the last even just 6 months
I can
of
believe
a
it.
whole bunch of applications that I use now are just throwing AI at me. And I'm fighting it off as much as I can because I just don't trust it. But
Well, it's like the auto placement or classification of things, and do you have like software that suggests what you should do,
yeah,
and like you just kind of click off right or wrong, and most of the time it's wrong in my
um,
experience.
yeah. What's odd is like so a lot of the work I do is with like Intuit products like QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online.
Hmm.
And the QuickBooks Online especially has really had their AI pushed out on it. And like it does some things better than others because there are times where like if I'm just categorizing a bunch of transactions for the books, there's some stuff where I look at it and it makes a guess and like it even like 5 years ago their product would make guesses based on
Yeah.
like the text from something. But I will say that its guesses have gotten better, but there are still times where it's way off. And
Well,
so I still have to go through line by line and make sure that like even if the guess is correct, I still have to verify it. It saves me a little bit of time because I'm clicking instead of having to type something in, but it's
well,
saving me maybe a couple seconds per
I think
transaction,
I
but it's
think where
adding
we're
up.
going where we're going here though is that when we brought up taxis and truck drivers, we were talking about more blue collar jobs, and you
Yeah.
went right into factories. What we're talking about now is the white collar jobs that we thought were safer. So that would be like, well, we
Um,
got go ahead.
You actually, you're seeing a lot of it where like people are asking AI to write their code for them.
Mm,
Of I want to do a program that does X, Y, Z, right? And so they'll feed the prompts into something like ChatGPT and say, "Hey, give me Python code to achieve these programming goals or whatever." And ChatGPT will spit out some Python code. But the problem is like that code might be again 90 or 95% accurate, but if you are not a skilled coder and you just drop that code in, then you're not going to know where that 5% is wrong. And I was
I'm
thinking about like there was a question that was posted on one of the AI subreddits where a guy's girlfriend had a work project where she sent out surveys to clients and they were text responses, right? Of and it doesn't even matter what. And so she threw all of the data that she got from these clients into Chat GPT, and then Chat GPT created an Excel that like
was not.
summarized these findings,
It was
and then
way
she
off.
sent it out to the clients without even reading it. And so like the clients are like, "What is this data? None of this stuff makes sense." And and
Somebody
the
who
guy was like,
understands the data.
right.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "What? How do I help my girlfriend through this mess?" And basically, they're just like, "Well, it sounds to me like she relied on AI and didn't know what she was doing, and now everybody's finding out about it."
No, I mean, I'm coding a new dashboard for our agents, which has, I've got an integrated chat bot. I've got something that runs through all of our emails and pulls information out. It's pulling some information from some websites, but it is vastly just doing a terrible job. Everything it does is just these broad brush strokes in the wrong direction, like with the color of what I was aiming for. And it's way off. And not understanding, I'm not a coder, I'm a real estate agent. Not understanding coding makes it very difficult for me to identify what the problem is, which just means I have to reiterate 1,000 times to figure out what was wrong. Not even to figure out what was wrong, but just to make a correction because I'm not.
Yeah.
It would take me 30 seconds if I understood code to probably know what was wrong.
And it would be like that if I were to do accounting and I were to like somehow format the data so that AI could say like, all right, AI, here's all the bank statements, categorize all these transactions and create financial statements for me. Like I would be able to go through and look at what it turns out for me and be able to see what's right and wrong. But that's because I've got years of experience working with financials. If I was someone who didn't understand accounting, I would have no idea
You'd be
whether or not
wrong.
the AI got it right. Real
And
quick,
you would
like,
flounder like an idiot trying to figure out what it was because you'd be
especially if I
relying on.
sent it off to a client and the client's like, "Hey, this doesn't make sense at all with like what we think we made," because like clients, even like the less financially literate clients, had a pretty good idea as to whether or not they were profitable, right? And so, like, if you spit something out there like this doesn't conform at all to what our expectations were, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're just like, "Well, I had AI do it, and like AI
That's what I
should be
said. Like
correct."
this broad strokes in the wrong direction. A couple
Do you
things.
think AI is going to take over real estate jobs?
Well, hang on, because I got a couple comments that I want to make here. And one is bar trivia. So bar trivia has been on vacation for the last month or so because everybody needs a little vacation. Bar trivia is back from vacations, unpacking right now, and will make it for the end of this episode. So stick with us for the bar trivia question. You can win some cool SipTalk merch about it taking over AI. So I'm sorry, about AI taking over real estate. I think, and the reason we're revisiting this is that we've for a long time it's been a science fiction issue or a distant future issue, but the way that learning AI works is that it's happening faster and faster and faster. So it's accelerating in how it's taking things over. And when we talk about it taking over white collar jobs, it's not just call centers where it's somebody in the Philippines or India servicing Americans in the U.S. Um, it's taking over other white collar jobs. Like coding is, I mean, I would call that a hoodie job, but it's technically a white collar classified job. But writing contracts and law, um, analyzing medical information, drafting podcast scripts like this. We got a broad outline. Obviously, we went in here and edited it, and you and I are talking about it. But I imagine I could actually have a pretty compelling conversation with an AI, and it could make an interesting podcast. Um, but also, it's taking over acting and script writing.
And CGI and art.
Well, now you don't have the CGI. I mean, the CGI artists that have been vastly underappreciated, and I think maybe 5 to 8 years ago, the light was really drawn on them. How hard these guys work to build movies like Toy Story or Shrek or any of these animated movies. And now, if there was 100 people working 40-hour days times 9 days a week,
40-hour days, that's tough to do.
40-hour days, 9 days a week is a lot of hours. They were working a lot. And now it's just one person telling AI what to do, and all those people are out of jobs. And that's a creative job. It's almost a scientific job. They said it was underpaid and underrespected, but it's a tough job.
But it was
And
still paid.
but it was paid exactly, and all those jobs are gone. So the question is thinking into the not so distant future. Not am I worried about real estate? I'm worried about real estate job just as much as I'm worried about everybody's job, even the ones that you would think would be impossible to recreate. Um, like being a mailman, right? Being a waiter, being a bartender. I mean, what are your thoughts about a robotic? We talked about you go to the airport, you don't even have somebody to order from. You got to order from an iPad, or even worse, just a QR code, and you don't actually get to talk to anybody at all.
If there's a place that only has QR codes, then they're not getting my business.
Yeah, but if you're in the airport, you don't have a choice. If you want to
Then
have
I'm
a
not
drink,
eating.
well, I don't want to fly sober, so
And
I hate
if
flying.
my choice is QR code or nothing, I choose nothing every single time.
That sounds miserable. I would rather QR code just to have a cocktail in the. So I think
I'm considerably more stubborn than you are.
yeah, to your own detriment is my point.
That
But
would be the difference. Is like you draw the line at I'm going to stop being stubborn when it hurts me, and I say I don't care how much it hurts.
so it taking over real estate. The thing is that what we do as real estate agents is sell and persuade. People have a really difficult time making a decision and don't always know what's best for them to their own detriment. So I told somebody today, I said, look, you could, if somebody has seen no listings and you take them to one place, which you, the expert, know is the best for them, and they've seen nothing else, they're not going to they're not going to decide on it and put in an offer or an application. Some people will, but the vast majority of people need some contrast.
I'm going to add one more thing to this. in terms of the value that real estate agents provide, is I think back when I was buying my house, the real estate agent I had was excellent. And one thing that he did that I don't know how AI would be able to do is when the house that I'm currently living in was for sale, like it was listed for like 2 days, right? So he calls me and says, "Hey, this house just came on the market. Not even on MLS. You're not going to be able to find it if you search anywhere. It just came on the market. Owner is looking to get out quickly. He's taking offers for like the next 16 hours or something like that, or like maybe
Yeah,
like the next 40 hours. It's like the next you need to
2 days or something. Yeah.
yeah. I think he called me on like a Friday, and he's like, "You need to have your offer in by Sunday." And I was like, "All right, cool. Let me see the house." And I saw the house, loved it, and put it in an offer. And he helped me with like tooling the offer to be enough to win,
Hmm.
which I don't think AI would have been able to do a good job on. But the fact that because he knew other real estate agents and he knew the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent said, "Hey, I got this property that needs to go quick. If you've got any uh, I'm sorry, the seller's agent. The seller's agent says, "Hey, I've got this property that needs to go quick. If you got any buyers that are looking for a property, like let them know." And so that the biggest piece of value that my real estate agent contributed was finding me a property that I would not have been able to find myself.
Well, what I was going to add was maybe the more like jobs that rely on psychology and persuasion or something. But I mean, people are already like Better Health, the app, which is like a mental health app where you get like counseling thing. I'm sure there's a ton of like AI. I don't
The
know. I
way they
just
make a lot of their money is by scraping user data and selling it.
well, I'm sure they do that too. But
And
I don't know.
there's a lot of controversy about that. They've settled several lawsuits about like how they treat user data.
Um, but they treat users quite nice. They talk them off ledges and cliffs. Um, so
I
I
mean,
don't think.
if AI was trying to talk me off of a ledge, I'm jumping sooner.
Like you said, to your own detriment. But I think there's a possibility real estate could be one of the ones that's preserved a little bit longer in some respects. But I do actually think it's going to be a vast tidal wave.
AI
Uh,
will bleed into everything
well,
eventually.
yeah, but I think bleeding into it to begin with, you're going to see kind of a big tidal wave that wipes out most agents, and then the good ones stick, which is already the case, though. Like it's already the case. I think it'll just maybe make it harder to get into. So then I think maybe the question is, how quickly do you think this is going to happen? Not just for real estate, but for being a postman, for being a taxi driver, to being a welder.
Self-driving cars and self-driving transportation is a ways off. That like there are so many problems that it needs to solve that are not even close to being solved yet. I'd say self-driving vehicles that have any degree of reliability or dependability, it's 5 to 10 years.
I think less because I think they're already building vehicles to have that capability.
Yeah, but they're shit.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is it's going to happen quicker because we're not going to get to that level of technology and then start making the vehicles. We're going to get to that level of technology, and city by city, we're going to be flipping that switch.
Yeah,
So I
but
don't
look
think
at like
5 to 10. I'm thinking more like we're going to see it prevalent in 3 to 5.
no, because we've been told it's 3 to 5 years away for the last 10 years.
That's true. That is true. But what I'm saying is they're producing a lot more of these
Yeah, but you
vehicles.
also see a lot of companies divesting from it because they realize it's not a profitable space.
It's going to be a
And
heavy
that
amount of liability.
oh yeah. Like there's all sorts of questions about like if you own somebody has to own the self-driving vehicle. And so like if you're the owner like and it gets into an accident, are you responsible? Is the person who coded the software for the vehicles responsible? Who gets sued?
I'll tell you how it's going to start. For a long time, it's going to be the owner of the vehicle and the primary passenger, because what they will do, and they'll hold off on this as long as possible, is they will make this person have to have their hands on the wheel or have to be aware.
You're already
And
seeing so like and this is there's numerous reports of this where like if someone's in like the autopilot or whatever, if the autopilot detects that it's going to get into a crash, like like a second or two beforehand, it shuts itself off and puts it back on manual control. So that way they don't have to record the accident as being caused by autopilot because technically the person
Yeah.
was driving at
Well,
the
I
time
don't.
of the
I
accident.
think. I
Never
think
mind what happened 2 seconds beforehand.
that's the wrong way to do it. What
Well,
I'm saying is the right way to do it is
that might as well be Tesla's company
is
motto.
that it it's going to have the driver have to be aware, and they can already track your eyes and what you're looking at, but they're going to make the driver have to be aware and engaged somehow so they can collect all the data, even though the driver is doing nothing. They're not pressing the brake, they're not pressing the pedal.
Yeah.
But they're not, they're not going to allow, like today, actually, I was driving. Um, don't tell anybody this. I was driving, watching. I wasn't watching, but YouTube was playing on one phone, and then I was trying to answer a text on the other phone. Uh,
Yeah, don't do that.
Obviously, it was
Oh,
bad, and I do a lot of voice to text actually, so like I have that going for me. So I'm able to keep my eyes on the road, and I wasn't watching YouTube. I was listening to it, but I'm still at this point using two different devices while driving.
um,
Um,
Rosh says that they're starting to build like self-flying, like air transportation. And I can tell you, the only thing that I'm less likely to get into than a self-driving car.
It was a self-driving airplane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking about that on the way home when I was thinking about this podcast, and I was just like I could maybe do like a in city cab ride with no driver. I mean, in New York City, the cab drivers are shit to begin with, so but they're aggressive. So
they'll get you there.
a self-driving cab would get you in like there in like three times the amount of time.
Oh yeah,
But
because they're going to be yielding to everything.
but it would be safer. But it would be exactly. They're just there's not gonna be like the Indian guy that's darting in and out of the traffic. All right, so you're thinking 7 to 10 for self driving. What about kind of different careers and some other things?
That's so granular. Like there's already some jobs that are being replaced. Like um, it's actually a huge issue in like the Philippines and India, where like a lot of companies have offshored their customer support, especially the Philippines, um, because the the population there speaks English at a higher prevalence rate than India, and like a lot of professional jobs offshore to the Philippines. I know for a while my accounting firm actually had a team in the Philippines, and like a lot of the stuff that the Filipinos were doing, like a lot of call centers, that's stuff that like is probably the easiest for AI to tackle, because if you just need to have like an AI chatbot that does voice to text and respond to a customer's concern, like that's pretty within the limits of our current technology. It doesn't really need much more development to be functional at, like, if you think about like level 1 customer support, like you could
Level
have
one,
a
yeah.
right,
Like just like how do I renew my subscription? Can
or
I pay you
cancel,
online? Or
or
what's my
even
account
handling
balance?
mild complaints.
Yeah, your complaint's been logged. Somebody will be back in touch with you, basically.
Yeah, I think like it all depends on how mechanical a process is, and I don't mean mechanical in terms of physical. I mean, like, so with my
The
job with
process that is
mortgages,
is repeated, what you're
yeah,
doing
like,
over and over again, and the most common things that we see are gonna be the first things to be automated.
yeah, because like with my job with mortgages, there's aspects to my job that could be automated, but there's a lot of aspects to my job that are judgment calls, intuition, and kind of looking at big picture things that would be really difficult to automate, because in mortgages there are so many exceptions, and like with the pool of investors that we work with like 20 to 30 different investors. Each investor has a different rate sheet, has different guidelines, has different rules about what loans they will take and what they won't. And like when we're evaluating where we're going to send a loan or something, that's something that we have to just be figuring out all the time.
Well, I think,
And
and that's why real estate will last also, is because what we do on a daily basis is so unique. It's like connecting people. Somebody tells you what they want, and you find something for them that they wouldn't have thought about. But mailman, taxi driver, welder, and even like
like
to a
some
degree,
data entry.
well, I was going to say like even some surgeries are, like simple stitching and things like that. I mean, even like open heart surgery and things like that are have a heavy amount of robotics involved in them now, which is
Yeah,
why
but
it's
the
not led
difference
by
is that like
robotics,
no,
but
no, no. Like,
it's
but
very
even
much
if you've
guided
got
by.
like robotic assisted surgery, it's assisted where basically you've got the surgeon making inputs and the robotics are making their inputs more precise. They're not correcting the inputs, they're just making them more precise because if you need to have, let's say, millimeter or micron level accuracy with a cut, like having a gimbal that kind of can filter your inputs and take out any shakes or wobbles in your hand so that way the scalpel stays perfectly still. That's just range of motion filtering.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's not AI
a
saying,
robotic.
"Hey, we think that you should cut here, not here." It's just we're helping smooth out
Well,
your inputs.
cameras have done that for 2 decades, smoothing out a little bit of jitteriness.
Yeah. And
So
so
same thing, just at a
yeah, like
much more microscopic level.
yeah, and so I don't see AI like taking over the decision making process of surgeons. I think that the only thing that AI would do would be basically just improving the input smoothing. But I don't think that is really an issue. I think
Well,
that's already pretty good right now.
so, but what jobs do you think? I mean, a little like you think accounting less, and again,
No,
it's
I think accounting is actually one of the areas that is in a lot of danger because anyone who's worked in accounting can tell you that a lot of the job is repetitive entries of things. And if AI can get a little bit better at at reading formats and knowing how to post things, then that takes a lot of the grunt work out of accounting. And
okay, but but let's get into how few jobs survive and why part of our topic here is universal basic income. So
all right,
what
well,
jobs are going to be immune in the next decade to 20 years? Because I think 20 years is actually on this scale a very
I
uh,
mean that's really hard to say because it's the problem with the phase that we're in with AI right now is that it's going through its exponential growth phase, right?
barely
But
barely entered it.
well, no, it's right in the heart of it, where it's
Well,
taking
AI
off.
itself,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
AI technology is, but
But
how it lays itself across the landscape of
right,
every
but
other aspect of our
the
life is in
thing
its
is,
infancy.
when it comes to the development of any kind of technology, there ends up being kind of hard limiting factors on what it can achieve, and you don't always know where those limits are until you reach them. And you can think about something like when it comes to computing power, right? So, like, how many gigahertz can a processor turn out, right? How many transistors can you fit into a certain space? Like, when transistors were first invented in like the 40s and 50s, and then they started cramming tons and tons of them in the 80s and 90s and so on, we're actually now at the point where, like, they're making transistors so small and so tightly packed together that like quantum effects can affect the accuracy of computing. And so like there's a hard limit to how tightly packed you can make the transistors, which limits what you can do with like processors. And like we don't know whether or not such a limit exists with AI where
Well, AI
you get
is
to a certain point and it runs into a wall that you just can't pass through.
well, I think what you're talking about effectively is Moore's law about how I think it's like
Well, I'm
compute
talking about the
power,
genesis of Moore's law, but what I'm talking about is that,
how
like,
it applies to AI.
I no, what I'm saying is that I'm actually saying Moore's law ends up hitting a wall. Is that for a long time Moore's law held, and then physics got in the way, and
So,
physics put a hard cap on when Moore's law could make it, and that's pretty much where we're at.
so
Like
Moore's
the
law, just to define it for those who don't know, and I'm not 100% of the specifics, is that
every
compute
18 months,
power
every
doubles.
18 months
It doubles every 18 months, and it's held very true. But
for like
that's because
30 or
things
40
get,
years.
yeah, 30 or 40 years is a long time. Is because our technology to create technology has gotten better, but and we're talking at this point now at a microscopic level, how many more pixels basically can you, not pixels, that's not the right word, but transistors can you pack into such a small amount of space? And
Eventually, you run out of space.
I mean, a transistor is going to only be able to get so small. Is the
That's
point?
what I mean.
Yeah, not the. I mean, not the. Yeah. So that we're going to break Moore's law very soon, and it's probably going to break with AI power because there's so much money going into this to be able to make these computes.
Yeah, but what I'm
That
saying is, like, you can think about it like a black hole, right? Is you can cram matter into a thing and you can make it denser and denser and denser, and eventually you hit a limit where you can't put any matter into it anymore because it becomes a black hole. And then when you put more matter into it, you don't make the black hole denser, you just make the black hole larger. And so there's a limit to density. And that's the same is true with technology, whereas you're going to reach a certain point where you're no longer able to make gains because of some fundamental limitation to either the technology or the physics behind it.
okay,
And we're not at that point with AI yet. No,
but
we're nowhere near it. But we don't know what that point is. And so where that wall that we run into with what AI is capable of determines how much AI affects our life and jobs. Is
so
is that limit close and we're near it already and we just run into it and we're like, okay, well, that's about all that AI can do? Or is it really far off and AI takes over almost everything? I don't know.
I'll tell you where we stand. Okay, is that AI? We're talking about this like we're going to be surprised that it's going to happen in this 3 to 5 year. You're thinking 7 to 10 year. AI is this great, powerful force, the compute power, the ability to think, the ability to produce art, but the ability to physically do. And that is the field of robotics, which AI could potentially speed us up on. But the field of robotics is actually lagging way, way behind AI in the sense that you could code somebody to do like, I don't know, like being a mailman, right? Like you're a mailman. You come up on a rusty mailbox that doesn't open. You can open it up. If you're a robot mailman, you come up on a rusty mailbox that doesn't open up. You skip that house forever, um, or until they get a new mailbox. But there's going to be things like that hold back AI and robotics from taking over jobs. And I think what we haven't talked about at all today is robotics being the biggest, like real estate. Who's taking pictures of all these apartments, building the descriptions, and doing the showings? Yeah, you can have a fucking automated Bluetooth lock or something like that on Wi-Fi, whatever it is.
And you
But
could have like a camera on like a rolling drone that takes an elevator up to an apartment and then like authenticates with some kind of a code to open the door.
yeah,
Like all that's possible.
yeah, except when it hits like a somebody's entrance carpet in the hallway and then just falls over and and then it's done. So
Um,
I mean, and that's pretty basic robotics, right?
well,
So like
yeah, but the
robotics is
problem.
what's holding us back from AI taking over a lot of these jobs. And it's funny that we haven't talked about robotics more, but
Well, that's because robotics is a completely different field and it presents a whole suite of problems that are a lot more difficult to solve than anything that AI is trying to do right now. Because not only do you need to have the code to make the robotics work, but there's also an entire field of engineering that needs to be addressed so that like you can know what you want something to do, but being able to build the mechanical components to actually do it, that's also really hard.
yeah. So let's say robotics speeds things up. A lot of people lose their jobs, and a lot of people lose their jobs. And we're going to see AI take over a lot of jobs, a lot of white collar jobs before some of these blue collar jobs. So a lot of blue collar jobs, like being a plumber, are going to. I mean, I heard this podcast yesterday or today talking about podcast video, whatever it was, uh, talking about how plumbing is actually like plumbers. AI is coming for you, but
No.
that's robotics, coupled
Yeah,
with AI. And AI will be able to take over a plumber's job way before robotics can. But you can't just put a computer on the fucking floor in your bathroom. It's going to unclog the drain and replace
yeah,
the
replace the
PVC
pipe
pipes.
or
No,
whatever, like, yeah.
you could have the most powerful fucking computer in the world sat in the bathroom floors and not doing shit.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna think really hard about this problem.
so that's the issue. But so let's just fast forward and say robotics has caught up to AI. Now we're in the future.
Hey,
Um,
real quick, um,
Go for it.
Say hi to Angel who just joined in, and we got 15 minutes to go. So do you want to do the bar trivia now or at the end?
Oh, I'll give you the bar trivia now, and then we can get into UBI because
Okay.
why not? I like this bar trivia question because it got me because I'm an idiot, and I think there's a lot of other idiots out there. So the question is, and James, if you want to put in our private chat your answer, and Rosh,
Best thing about being an idiot is that you're never alone.
if you want exactly, that's how I know it's a good one. Rosh and James, if you want to both pop your answer when you're ready into our private chat, because we're not going to release the answer to this one until next week. But you can visit SipTalkPodcast.com, answer the bar trivia question for a chance to win some cool merch like a pint glass or a dog shirt or a towel or whatever it is you might want. So take 1,000, add 40 to it. Now add another 1,000. Now add another 30. Add another 1,000. Now add 20. Now add another 1,000. And now add 10. When you got your answer, pop it into the chat and let me know what you think. So on that note, let's talk about UBI. Remember that answer to that bar trivia question will be revealed next podcast. And the trivia
Did
question,
me and Rosh get it right?
the trivia question was take 1,000, add 40 to it. Now add another 1,000. Now add 30. Now add 1,000. Now add 20. Add another 1,000. Add 10. What is the total? You guys were right. I'll tell you why after the podcast. So let's talk about UBI. So UBI, you want to introduce what UBI is for people who just don't know what it is, and just
Universal basic income. Basically, the idea is that everybody that lives in the country that has it receives some amount of money. Yeah, whatever
area.
government, whatever government is putting this out there, whether it's city, state, or federal, receives some amount of money from the government every year just because.
Which is going to be what needs to happen if nobody has a job, and if jobs and industries are just wiped out, because
if you have more people in a country than you have jobs, and by a large amount, then you have a problem.
You have a major, the economy is going to topple over because people can't buy shit. And we've seen that happen across the U.S. in certain towns over the years. It's been very, very bad for those towns and the economy of those towns.
Look at any Midwestern town that had a factory at the center of the town.
Not even just Midwest, but obviously the more centrally.
Actually, upstate New York can talk about this too.
I'm thinking of like all the right moves, like the steel company in Pennsylvania, wherever that was.
Yeah, that's Midwest to me.
Pennsylvania's Midwest.
All right, Rust Belt.
It sort of is, though. But yeah, Rust Belt is what it is, because these steel companies, they just stopped manufacturing, and we exported all those jobs. So any job that was then exported to a different country, those industries went away in the United States.
And those people that lived in that town either had to just not work or move somewhere else for work. But once that factory went, all the jobs went, and all those jobs
reskilling is very difficult.
Well, not just that, but now that all these people are there, they also spent money on all sorts of other crap. They spent money on restaurants and clothes and all sorts of services, and now they either leave or don't have the money to pay for those things, so those jobs go away too.
Exactly. And that's why you have collapse. So they could move away, or they could reskill. Now, reskilling is very difficult.
They probably still can't stay in that town. They still have to move away.
Well, hear me out on this one, though. The option back then was to reskill and find a different job, something that you knew nothing about. So if you're a plumber, now you become an electrician. If you're an electrician, now you become a mechanic. If you're a mechanic, now you become a librarian, whatever it is. But now it's not just your industry that's going down quick, it's so many other industries. So the idea of reskilling becomes almost impossible because the jobs are disappearing faster than you can reskill.
Well, you can think about it instead of it just being one town where the factory goes away, and if it was a town of 50,000 that employed 10,000 people in that town, and then the other like 20 or 30,000 jobs were all related to the fact that 10,000 people worked in that factory goes away. Now you've got 30 or 40,000 people that don't have a job and there's no jobs to do. They have to leave the town. Now imagine replace that town with the entire world where
Yeah, it's
you
not just
have
going to be the U.S. It's not just going to
yeah,
be China or
where you're just
Europe.
going to have 3 or 4 times the amount of population, then there are jobs to be done.
And that's why. And remember, collapse, because just what you said, if you work in that town, you don't have a job, you can't buy food. The everybody who's buying food can't afford food. The restaurant's not going to have enough customers,
Right.
right? And then the people at the restaurant and the factory now are out their jobs. So the people that buy shoes and socks can't sell shoes and socks to anybody, et
Yeah.
cetera, et
So
cetera. And everything just topples. But that's countrywide and it's also worldwide. And that's why I think having these conversations, we're not going to solve this shit now.
no,
Um,
but UBI is a potential solution to it.
but it is a potential solution. But the question is, so I think I think almost everybody agrees that it has to happen. And there's and I'm not
Not
saying
yet.
well,
Not yet.
and also UBI, a downside of UBI is like inflation goes way up.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, if people can afford to buy more, they buy more, and buying more leads to inflation.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily with controls in place.
Right. What I'm saying is like if you do UBI irresponsibly, sure, you're going to have inflation. If you do UBI the correct way, it will have minimal
We don't.
inflationary impact.
Well, I think it's going to have inflationary impact uh, earlier on.
It might. I
Okay,
can't.
and
I
I think
can't say
that'll level
definitively
off.
that it wouldn't.
But there's not a right way to do UBI really because
No, but there's definitely a wrong way to do it.
well, we'll talk about that in 1 second. But like the argument against UBI is that it makes people lazy. The argument for UBI right now that we're talking about is no matter how motivated and hardworking you are, there may be absolutely fucking nothing for you to
Right.
do.
So first of all, the argument about UBI making people lazy, any place that has conducted an experiment with UBI has not found that it makes people lazy. Like people's productivity and willingness to work didn't go down meaningfully in UBI experiments.
I disagree with you. And
I
I
mean, I
can
can
tell
pull up
like
the data.
well, I mean, but the data is not always accurate. And I'll tell you a couple of things. If you just gave me a certain amount of money every month, I would definitely go into work later. And I mean, I work a lot. So, I might not work 6 days a week all of a sudden. I might not work, I might not be out of the house for, 11, 12, 13 hours a day, which I am now. So I would definitely back off on that. But I can then also tell you running a real estate office during the pandemic where everybody started getting unemployment payments and I kept the office open or they were still getting unemployment payments and we had reopened, a lot of people didn't come back to work. So, I mean, that's my own test that I witnessed with my own eyes, and that was a version of UBI. So, uh, I mean, I watched it happen. Now, I also was reading about it and watching videos about it earlier today, and the take is generally that it doesn't make people more lazy. But I'm telling you that that's a component, and it will happen.
The way that you incentivize UBI is and this is where like actuaries and economists need to get involved, but you make it so that people are still encouraged to work and be productive, and you make it so, and I'm just going to make up numbers here, so let's not like hold me to the actual numbers. Well, let's say UBI is $20,000 a year, right? And if you work like once you start making like the first $20,000 a year that you earn from a job doesn't affect your UBI at all, right? Once you start making money over that 20,000. So like if you make $20,000 at your job, well now your income's 40,000, 20 from UBI, 20 from your job, right? And now every dollar that you earn from your job above the 20,000 reduces your UBI by let's say 50 cents.
50 cents, yeah, half.
Right. So now you make $30,000 a year and that reduces your UBI by 5. So you make 30,000, your UBI is 15, so now you're making 45. And you have a phase out, and like, I'm using a really simple example. I'm sure you could come up with something that's more complicated that would have a better effect in terms of keeping people in the workforce and being productive.
Yeah, but you're
But
spitballing numbers for the sake of, yeah.
yeah. And so you can design it in such a way that people are still encouraged to work and be productive while not feeling like they're losing out on a benefit, because you make it so that you only lose out on the benefit when you're doing so well that you no longer need that benefit. It's the same thing with, like, why I think one of the ways that you could fix Social Security is, like, my mom has an investment advisor that has like $13 million just in his like IRA, right? And that's not counting his private investments. He gets a Social Security check.
Yeah, exactly. Like which is so. But here's what I'm
And
thinking.
he'll be
Then.
the first one to tell you that he doesn't need it.
Here's what I'm thinking is that what I foresee is that we are going to have major catastrophe before we really think these things out publicly and widely
Major
nationally.
catastrophe is going to be the event that causes UBI to be more accepted.
Yes, and it's not going to happen beforehand. And and that's my fear is that we're going to be you, me, everybody I know is going to be swept away in this.
You know what I'll say? There are going to be countries or governments that get ahead on UBI and are able to avert the catastrophe that other countries suffer. Is that the proactive nations that take more progressive policies are going to avert the kind of disaster that countries that are afraid of
Well,
this are going to suffer.
The United States is not in that box,
Oh
unfortunately.
no, not at all.
And we are going to be much more reactive, and it's going to be much more of a shit show because our politics are so widely divided that we're going to have a lot of big issues here.
I will agree with you.
And it's going to bring us from being a superpower to being really screwed over when 90% of this company is living in poverty. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying like that's what's going to happen if we don't get out ahead of it.
I would say it's a definite possibility.
And I think as it gets worse, and as vote, it depend. It's really going to depend on how quickly it happens, what the election years are. But it's going to be things that need to happen fast. And the last thing we didn't talk about was who pays for it, because taxpayers paying for it is not the answer, because taxpayers are going to evaporate. Tax dollars are going to evaporate because people aren't making money, and that's how the United States makes money, is by taxing people.
Yeah.
Who
No,
make
the
money.
way you tax it is if AI and automation is the cause of all these people losing their jobs, then the companies that are doing the AI and automation and making buckets of profit from this, those are the companies that are paying for the UBI. Is you guys are benefiting from a system that allows you to make this kind of money, you need to pay back into it.
Well,
Because if you
that's that.
don't, honestly, what's what would happen is if businesses are unwilling to pay a UBI tax, then you're going to have a significant portion of a country that can't work and has no money and sees who the enemy is, and it's the companies that are automating everything away,
Well,
and they will just riot and burn it all down. It's
my,
if you want to keep your golden palace, then you need to pay us not to burn you down.
yeah, I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to play out, but I do think
it
there's a
would get to that
possibility
point.
that some countries kind of resist the AI influx and the robotics influx. I think there's a good chance of that. Smaller countries probably, but we may actually also see some smaller countries gain some very rapid traction kind of on the world stage just because they're doing things right from the beginning. And think like Sweden or something like that. And that's an example
Well,
just because
AI can be a force multiplier.
it can be, but if done correctly. And I don't think that's how it's going to go. I think it's going to be done incorrectly for a while until we hit some major
If history
issues.
is any guide.
uh, on that note, We've reached the end of our time limit for the podcast. So I want to thank you for joining SipTalk Podcast, episode 278. Visit SipTalkPodcast.com. Answer the bar trivia, buy merch, buy us a drink. Shout out to Rash Galeb, who is helping us produce the podcast. He's feeding us your Instagram comments live. And we'll see you guys next time. Justin and DiGiulio for Rash and James saying adios. New York City real estate agents, it's time to make the move. Keep 100% of your commission. Get access to hands-on agent support and New York City's best agent training, the Slingshot program. Online access to our Agent University and online on-demand video training program. All at DiGiulio. Contact info@DiGiulioGroup.com to make the move.